Welcome to the Twinkl Talks EYFS podcast. Working in the early years is busy, funny, messy, and exhausting. Join me, Shána, and the rest of the Twinkl EYFS team as we talk honestly about our experiences as practitioners, teachers, and professional nappy changers. Whether you're listening to increase your CPD hours or catching up on our antics whilst driving home from work, Twinkl EYFS will share everything you need to know about all things early years. Hello, wonderful listeners. It's Shána here from Twinkl Talks EYFS with another episode in our mini-series of Twinkl Talks around the world. Today, I'm going to be talking to my wonderful colleague and friend, Liesel, who was an early years teacher in South Africa. Really exciting to see what's happening halfway across the world, right? But before we get there, we're going to have a little fun segment looking at Twinkl Talks Top 3. Where you guys have voted for your favourite thing depending on what I've put on social media. And this week, in light of the festive season, it being Easter and all that, we decided to look at the top 3 Easter chocolate. Here we go. So, of course, there are thousands and thousands of chocolates, so we would be here forever if I listed all of them. But I narrowed it down to 4, which I thought were like the top 4. We have mini eggs, the cream egg, the Lindt bunny, and the Malteser bunny. Now, the Malteser bunny is a new one, but I thought we'd include it, and I actually think it's rather tasty. Before we even get there, funny story about the cream egg. Cream egg for me is absolutely disgusting. Nothing wrong with it at all. However, when my mother was pregnant with me, she had a craving for mini eggs, and that's all she ate while I was inside her tummy. So, ever since I've been born, cannot stand cream eggs. I have overdosed on them in the womb. I shall have them no more. But anyway, enough about my strange stories. 254 of you voted in this poll. Obviously, very serious discussion here. In third place was the Lindt bunny with 13.8% of the vote. Maybe it'll take a couple more years for Malteser bunny to overtake it. Who knows? Now, this is the big one. I think this is where people were torn. You're either team mini egg or team cream egg. I won't tell you what I am until after. Wait, you probably know already from that story. Never mind. In second place, with 23.2% of the vote, is cream egg. See, people agree with me. So that means in the first spot, with a massive 50% of the vote, it's mini eggs. Of course, mini eggs reign supreme, guys. There is literally no other perfect Easter chocolate. You can prove me wrong. You can't. 50% agree with me. And that was just of the people that voted. Hashtag mini eggs. All right, they reign supreme. End of discussion. If your friends disagree with you, send them to this poll, okay? The early years practitioners have voted. Okay, I feel like I'm getting too serious about this now. I'm going to stop. Okay, see? So that should hopefully end all arguments in the early years staff rooms across the UK. Mini eggs reign supreme. So now we've got that fun little top 3 out the way, we're going to go into our main event as part of our mini-series of Twinkl Talks Around the World, where I talk with my wonderful friend Liesel about what it's like to teach early years in South Africa. Hi Liesel, thank you so much for agreeing to come and have a chat with me about what it's like in South Africa. I am very excited to find out. But before we get there, why don't you tell us about yourself, about how you came to England, how you came to work for Twinkl, and how you became a teacher in South Africa as well.
Okay. Hi, Shána. Really nice to meet you. And thank you very much for having me on your podcast. This is really a first for me. And I'm quite looking forward to this. Let's just maybe start at the basics. I I was always ready to be a teacher, and obviously a mum, because one of my biggest life dreams was to be a mum, and
Oh.
yeah, and I always just had this thing for children, cousins and friends and family always, spending time with the children. There was just always this kind of motherly part that I think, I have, I hope I have, and then when I finished school, at the age of 18, I really wanted to go into, I really wanted to do psychology, to be fair, at first.
Oh.
And I actually did start off studying psychology. And then after a year, I just realized, but you know what, this was just not me. And I just realized, no, I can't do this. I need to have that one-to-one interaction with a child where there's no barriers, no restrictions in terms of professionality between, and I actually then changed my course to early childhood education. And, I didn't regret it for one moment, because I then realized, what, this is what I want to do. I want to be in a classroom with children, and preferably younger children, I mean, gosh, I think the older kids would really walk over me, but just where I could be, a teacher, be myself and let them
Yeah.
be themselves, So I ended up doing my honors degree, and after that, my master's degree,
Oh,
and
wow.
but in a nutshell, so yes, my husband is British, and
And you know what? You've got a really nice, unique perspective. You taught in South Africa,
mm,
but you've got children in England who follow the
yes,
English early years curriculum. So you can see from both sides, as in from literally both sides of the world, but also from a teacher and from a parent perspective.
yes, which is quite interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I reckon you've learned like loads, which is so
A
exciting.
lot, yes. And I mean, and I'm still learning, because I mean, gosh, if I just think of, like say, for example, in South Africa, we have what we call grades. So children have grade R, which is our reception, and
Yeah.
then grade 1, 2, 3, all the way up to grade 12, and I mean, children can, I say children, learners can finish, I think it's by the age of 16, which is like grade 10, if they don't want to further their education, the higher education. But if you want to say go to varsity, and so you have to finish grade 12. And whereas here, for example, you have the years and key stage 1, key stage 2. And I mean, I kind of think I follow it now, especially that my daughter's now started reception last year, September, but it's still very, different to ours in South Africa. So I'm kind of learning along with her now, if it makes
Yeah.
sense. And there is differences, there's similarities. So I'm learning as I'm going.
I love that. I mean, aren't we all? Because let's be honest, things change. I mean,
Mm,
we with the reforms in the earliest foundation stage in
mm.
2021, we've had to learn an well, I say entire new curriculum, but yeah, we've had to, relearn with the children as well. So we're with you. We're with you, Liesel. We're all
Yeah.
learning. But I have already picked up on some things that I found interesting. And it might not seem interesting to you, but it's different words. So I'm assuming, correct me if I'm wrong, varsity means university.
University. Yeah, that's just now my South
No, I
African.
love it. It's very
Yeah.
but it's very exciting. And like you
Yeah.
say, you've got grades, but they kind of sort of match
Yeah.
up to our years. Our key stages you call phases. Am I right?
Yeah, so pretty much how I always kind of in my head I always try to say it's more or less key stage 1 is more or less what we call in South Africa, the foundation stage.
Mm.
Key stage 2 is more or less what is our intermediate phase, and so forth.
No, it's really good because I was speaking to Stacey from Australia, and we had the same thing because we call it EYFS, but in Australia they call it EYLF. See, I've already forgotten, Lisa.
Yeah.
There's just so many different
There
words,
is.
isn't there? But
Yeah.
it's all the same
It's
thing.
all the
We're
same
in the
thing.
same boat, exactly.
Yeah.
But before we even get to like what it looks like in different school systems, you mentioned you went to varsity to kind of get your qualifications and things. So how do you become an early years teacher or practitioner in South Africa? Because there's loads of different ways to do it
Yes,
here.
yeah. From what I know, there's a few ways. I mean, you can go to college, for example, and do a diploma course. You can still, become an early years practitioner, or you can go to varsity. And I mean, obviously, every university, shall I say, have their own different kind of programs or so. And then, obviously, the one where I went to, it was a 4-year course. And at the beginning of your second year, you went to like a nursery school, can I say, for 3 weeks to kind of do some practicals. You had some tasks and assignments that you had to do along, with it, just to kind of get a general feel of it. And then the beginning of your third year, you spend three weeks in a primary school to get a different kind of feel about, for the older children, up to where the degree, goes to, which is because ours is from birth up to 9 years old. And then, then in your fourth year, you spend pretty much 6 months out in schools, to gain that practical experience. Because, I mean, can you just imagine if you finish 4 years of theory and you just dropped into, real
Right.
life?
It's a shock.
It's a shock, yeah. But then also you get what is called NQF, which is National Qualifications Framework. So that is pretty much small little skill qualifications, can I say, which is great if you say, for example, already a teacher and you just want to build up on, your skills in different specialized areas, for example. And, you can then over a longer period of time build up, smaller qualifications towards a bigger formal, can I say, qualification as well.
I find that really interesting because I kind of did the same as what you did. I did 3 years at university doing linguistics. But then after that, instead of doing a 4-year course like you did, I just did a 1 year. And it was very much, I think I've said before that it was 3 days, but now that I remember, it was 4 days a week in school and 1 day a week at university. And it was literally just like, go.
Yeah,
But it was fine because I felt like I was ready for that. I had volunteered in my own primary school as soon as I left. And I knew it was just something that I was ready for. I didn't want to spend another 3 years
yeah,
in a lecture hall for someone to tell me this is what it should look like when we all know, Liesel, it's
yeah.
not. I mean, we can
Mm-mm.
have as much theory as we want in the world,
Exactly.
but it's very different when you get in that classroom. And I really wanted to see what it was like and just learn on the job. And I'm really interested to know because for me, my linguistics degree has really supported my teaching. I have like a real passion for communication and language, supporting multilingual children, supporting children with communication and language difficulties, and phonics is like my passion. So my previous degree, I feel, really helped me understand and help children in early years
Yeah.
in that specific area. Do you think psychology, in your degree in psychology, has kind of helped you become a better early years teacher?
I definitely think so because, like I say, yes, I didn't complete the full course, which was the 3 years because my aim, it's nice to say, oh, I've got a 5-year plan, it doesn't always work like that in
No, it does
reality.
not.
I would have loved after 3 years to go into, child psychology. I always wanted to work with children. So in a way, yes, I say psychology has helped me because it directed me in the right way where I needed to be, if that makes sense. But I definitely also would say I don't think I've got enough psychological knowledge. With psychology, you still listen a lot. You still have that lots of active listening, which you still have to do with children in many ways
Yeah,
as well.
absolutely.
So yes, I'm definitely sure that there are parts from that I still can take, or that I took at least. But yeah,
See, I think it's a really important point to make because there might be some listeners who are thinking, well, I've done 10 years in
Mhm.
business. I've done, my degree in this or that, and I can't be a teacher. But it's quite nice to have us be testaments and be like, well, actually, you can. There are still other pathways. You can have been working, I don't know, in a company for 20 odd years and suddenly think, you know what, actually, my passion is in early years, and that's okay. And also, like with us, I feel what we've learned before has actually really helped us also become the best practitioners that we can be. Like you say, with
Yes,
your psychology, you can see when a child needs help. You've got that idea of, okay, well,
yeah,
I can use that. And for example, when I did linguistics, I can spot certain things in perhaps maybe communication and language development that maybe our colleagues might not be able to. And that's
exactly.
also a very good thing. I feel
Mhm.
like, especially in early years, we're working with humans, we're working with children, and we're teaching them life skills, not just academic skills.
Exactly.
So wherever you come from, you have had a life, you have had experience.
Yeah.
Whatever you can bring to early years is going to be a benefit.
Exactly. And I mean, if I can quickly interrupt there, Shana, the thing is
Please.
also, yes, the qualification is a must. It is a must because first of all, you work with children and not every person is ideal or, perfect to work with children, if I can
Yeah.
put it that way. You have to make sure that you have the right people working with children first and foremost. And yes, if you as a teacher don't have that, then you can't, expect to teach it for children. So yes, you need
Hmm.
that background, you need that theoretical background, but also theory can only teach you that much. Again, like I said,
Hmm.
I mean, I just take again from a mum perspective, you can beforehand, while I was pregnant, I read books and kind of like, okay, what do I do? Sleep training,
Mm.
this, do that, do that. But that all goes out of the window the minute you hold your own child in your hands, because the person who wrote that book wrote it with their knowledge, their experience, what worked for them. That doesn't necessarily work for me. And I mean, everybody is different. So, and like I said, I remember the first time I walked into my very own classroom where I was the teacher, not the teaching assistant or the student teacher. It was my classroom. I felt like I didn't have a clue what was going on. I
Right?
didn't know, okay, now what is a daily program? Okay, what am I supposed to do now? And I learned all of this at varsity. It's
Yeah.
just because this is now, it's literally and figuratively like my baby now. But what
Yes.
do I do? I'm responsible for somebody's child now. And until you actually get into the groove and you get into the whole mojo of it, the whole thing, and you then figure it out for yourself, and you figure out where your place is, not just as a teacher, but I'm in charge of these kids. How am I going to help and build them, so that they can become little individuals with their own personalities and their own characters, with their own independence? That's what I mean with authority. You're in charge of building these kids. And until you don't really know what works for you, and I mean, every year will differ because every class, every child is different, but you kind of get to know you get to know how you operate as a teacher, what works, what doesn't.
Yeah, you're so right. And it's really exciting to hear your passion about this. I'm like, I
Oh
can so
gosh.
tell she's an early years teacher. Like,
Oh
this is
gosh, I
cute.
love them.
Oh, it's cute.
Yeah.
But then there's, like you say, the other side, the theory, aka the curriculum, or the
Mhm.
bane of all of our lives, no matter where we are in
Yeah.
the world. I've had a look at yours briefly, but I'm really excited for you to tell me firsthand experience what the curriculum looks like in South Africa. So you've got something called CAPS, which is great, and it kind of breaks down the different grades, like you
Mhm.
say. So do you mind talking to me about how the early years stage is
Mm.
broken down into subjects,
Yeah.
so to speak?
So our early years program, or shall I say early years development phase, is pretty much from birth until the age of 9. But the CAPS
Oh,
curriculum only comes into play from the age of 5, so which is our reception year. So in South Africa, grade R, or our reception year, is the year that the children turn 6. So the year that they're 5, 6, that's our reception year. And that's where I get confused because my daughter only started reception year, last year, in the year that she turns 5. So CAPS only starts playing a role from the age of, grade R, can I say the year that they turn 6 and then onward. But then we have what is called the NCF, is the National Curriculum Framework, which is focused on birth until the age of 4. And so that basically, it's also a curriculum, but it's not as academically kind of like set out like what the CAPS curriculum is, for example. That is a bit more focused on language or literacy, numeracy, life skills, and then as the, shall I say, the phases grow older, like intermediate phases more has got like natural sciences, they've got technology, etc. So this NCF, or National Curriculum Framework, can I say, it's adult orientated in the sense of you as adult are in charge to set pathway, to set up, the classroom, to set up activities and things in order for children to then, and this is where the child's the child orientation part comes in, for children then to explore, to develop, to kind of play and things. So it's very much focused on children need to learn through play, and that's what's always been a very big thing for me as well, is that children need to learn through play, because that's when they learn problem solving, they explore, they experience different things. And so
it's actually really nice because I feel like everyone that I've spoken to so far has said something similar about their curriculum, that it is play based. And that makes me feel really happy because I'm like, yeah, that's how I want it to be. And
mm,
it's nice to see that it's a global kind of thing. Like, we all recognize that playing is not separate to learning. They are not two separate things, especially at that young age.
exactly.
That's how young children learn, is through play.
Yeah.
So that's really nice. I really want to know more about life skills. What's that all about?
Okay, so life skills is more pretty much okay. It just depends on, obviously, you get life skills as in how to tie your shoelaces, how to hold a knife and fork correctly. That's one form of life skills. But then if you look at like the CAPS curriculum, for example, from grade R onwards, that life skills is more, it's broken up into different areas. You've got beginning knowledge and personal development, which, and it's kind of, the CAPS curriculum then has set out themes, can I almost say. You've got Easter, special days. You've got plants and seeds. You might have space. It's all the different kind of themes. Then you've got also creative arts. That falls under life skills. That can be performing arts, that can be visual arts, two-dimensional, three-dimensional construction kind of artwork. And then you've also got basically physical education, where, so that's all part of the CAPS curriculum one. But then, whereas with, like in nursery schools, yes, you can do, those kind of things, because obviously any nursery school will do arts and crafts. You've got the outdoor play. You do some, physical kind of things with them, using flour and making a letter O, for example, and let them kind of like walk on the O, jump on one leg. So you always integrate. And that's one thing that I'll always say that I love about nursery school, or, early childhood, is because you can integrate all these different things, from a theme to literacy to numeracy. Like, I mean, if you say you've now done the letter O, but I mean, obviously you do the phonics side of it. That's already literacy. Let them jump on one leg. That's now more a physical education that you kind of draw in there. So there's so many different ways of integrating all these different things into just say one activity, which I loved. I loved doing that, or kind of figuring out how you can integrate all these different elements. I don't know how it is in the UK, because I've never really seen that as much as what I know in our nursery schools, because I've taught in 2 different nursery schools. And in both of them, regardless how different they were, in both of them, we had a theme per week. So this week could be, say, dinosaurs. This week could be space. This week could be autumn, And then every class follows that theme. And I mean, what's nice about the early years is, it's not set in stone, it's more personal. So this school might do autumn this week. The next school might do my family, so it's a bit more
flexible, right?
yeah, very flexible. Whereas to like the CAPS curriculum is a little bit more set out, but then you'll also think about your activity. You will have a sensory area, and generally every day you will change something a bit in the sensory area, but it will still go back to the theme. So let's use the topic of autumn, for example. You'll still have something sensory regarding autumn. Your literacy and numeracy lessons, that you kind of bring in for that group activities will all have something to do with autumn. So you always kind of try to get that theme with every single thing that you do, pretty much lesson-wise almost, for that week, can I say.
No, that's really interesting, because it's very similar over here, I think, in that, like you say, early years curriculum is very flexible, and we can lead with the children's interests, which is really lovely. But then when you get to the national curriculum, year 1, there is very much, oh, right, you learn about the Stone Age at this point,
Yes.
and you learn about there's something in this point. Whereas in early years, I have been in settings where they do follow certain themes, and they do like a round robin, so that when they make sure it's not covered anywhere else, or it's purely child-led, where they go, right, we're not planning anything. We're going off the children, and what we spark and what we see in them, we will then plan for the week after, and we'll set it up based on where they take us. So I think it's quite similar. I'm interested to know, we have private day nurseries, we have private settings, and we have nurseries attached to schools and things like that. Is it a similar setup in South Africa?
Yeah, so I would say yes. Some of them are set up to primary schools, but the majority of the ones that are set up to primary schools are pretty much the grade R, which is the reception year, because reception is now compulsory for all children before they start schools. They still wear non-uniform, because they still need to get dirty, go out and play. So for me, having my own daughter, yes, she looks so darn cute, and I get the point. I get why they have to wear uniform, but for me, knowing how I grew up and how our children are at school, just having that, it just kind of makes me feel like they have a bit more freedom, even though I know she still plays a lot, she learns a lot, I know, which is, it's kind of like, wow, you guys already do that. And it's like, no, you're still too small. Don't do it yet,
Yeah.
But then you still have other settings. You get some setups that's only focused on babies. I know one of them that just pops to my head is called Opti Baby. But, so that's pretty much just for like, babies, because a lot of parents in South Africa, they only get, I think it's 4 months maternity leave now, if I'm not mistaken. So it's not a long time.
Wow, that's not a lot of time at all.
So that's one thing I'm really glad for having my children in the UK, because I could spend so much time with them as babies before having to return to work. But I mean, you need settings to look after your child. If you have back to work. And in South Africa, because of that reason, that maternity leave isn't that long, you do get a lot of setups where, they take babies from as early as birth, etc.
Mm. Do they need a different qualification because they are dealing with such young, like feeding and things
Yeah,
like that?
I
Yeah.
assume, definitely assume so, and definitely like first aid courses and things and
Yeah.
all of that, baby
Gosh.
first aid.
Gosh, wow, I didn't know that. 4 months maternity leave. Goodness. Wow. Well, a final thing on the curriculum. This is something that I've kind of asked a lot of guests from different countries just because it intrigues me. In terms of reading and writing, is there a focus in the birth to four curriculum, or do we wait until we get to caps? Like what's the kind of the country's set up on reading and writing skills?
Yeah, so that's also something that I really find interesting when I have to, not that I want to, but that I have to compare with the UK, because obviously I see my daughter now going through this. Now, the focus is definitely not on reading and writing. It's more again playing. It's more about mark making for the writing part. Again, simple things, just mark making in sand, or put a tray of, for example, flour and let them.
Mm,
And I mean, yes, like especially because I used to be a grade art teacher. So, yes, we did a lot of phonics. You would introduce the letters. You would always have sight words up around your classroom. So, on the door, you would have a word door, so that they don't necessarily have to read it, but they can associate, okay, this, what I see here must mean door because it's on the door. So, you would have all those kind of labeling around in your classroom. Yes, you would do. Say if you do story time, we love using big books, for example, that they
yeah.
can see it. They might not necessarily be able to read it, but it's all that sight reading that they see. Writing, yes, we do things where they have to, like, say, follow the line, or all those focus on fine motor skills and things. But I mean, obviously just as much on gross motor, because we all know that gross motor is first and foremost important before you even want to start doing the fine motor and
Amen.
stuff.
Hmm.
But in comparison to, like I say, here in the UK, I see Annabelle, she's literally 4.5 years old now. Every week she gets different, words that she has to practice writing and reading. And I mean, she's capable. I'm shocked to see how well she is coping, how well she is doing it. But in saying that, now that this is something that has always bothered me, and I have once seen, it was a doctor of some form, of some sort. They took X-rays of a child's hand and an X-ray of an adult's
Yep.
hand.
I know where this is going. I feel like I've seen this too.
Yes. And after seeing that, in terms of, I mean, because we all know that children or babies are born with far more bones than what adults have, and that they fuse together, etc., etc. And then after seeing this X-ray with the child's hand, and they say that don't teach children too early to write because their hands aren't formed properly yet. That is
Hmm.
always kind of like just stuck to the back of my head. And I'm just really hoping that none of Annabelle's teachers are listening to this podcast, because they do use Twinkl. I know that because I've seen Twinkl resources in the
Yeah.
classroom. But I mean, I know that, they say, child must be able to write their names and practice this, practice that. And I do practice the things that they kind of expect us to, but up to a certain point. Because
Hmm.
also, like, say, for example, one of her favorite games will be like, Mommy, please give me a word so that I can write it. And the one day, I said, okay, write the word book. And she literally spelled it BUK.
Hmm.
And my mum saw it. Mum was like, oh, no, no, look, she spelled it wrong. And I was like, I couldn't care less. I couldn't
Nope.
care less. I don't care. I don't care if the B is backwards and looks like a D, or what,
Uh-huh.
what. For me, it's, first of all, she's trying her hardest, and she's only four
Absolutely.
and a half years old. And I mean, if that Easter looks like a spiral, she makes it a spiral for all I care,
Hmm. Yep.
She will get there when she's ready. I'm
Yeah.
not going to sit there and force and say, no, you're doing it wrong. You have to do it this way. She's only four and a
Mm.
half. So, like I said, that has always just sat in my head, the back of my head. And I mean, if she's ready to do it, like with the reading, I am super surprised at how well she's doing with her phonics and how well she's doing with her reading, because we have to practice reading every day. Yes, she's ready for it, then by all means. But I'm not going to put a lot of stress and strain on her if she's still only such a small child.
Right. This is
Yeah.
why I asked this question, because with everybody that I've asked so far, England seems to introduce reading and writing a lot earlier than other countries.
Yeah.
And it interests me because these similar discussions I have in my own mind. And I'm sure Annabelle's teachers also have these same things going on. And it's not that we want to do it, it's that our curriculum is set up to be like, no, they have to read this X amount of words before the end of reception. They have to be able to
Yeah.
write letters a certain way before they leave reception. And it's just very counterintuitive in some ways because of the research that, there's a lot out there and other countries are not doing it. So it just makes me question why. But that's really interesting. And I'm glad I've got your perspective as well.
Yes, you guys have got reception year, we've got reception year. Now, in England, the reception year is the year that they turn 5, and then in South Africa, the reception is the year that they turn 6, which technically is a year further on.
It is.
Now,
yeah.
in this reception year of my daughter, she gets reading homework. So one book every week and with a little notebook where we have to write notes. And then we get like a phonics sheet. And they don't get it every single week, but we get it often enough. And yes, it's not massive words, but there's words, for example, that's now starting to have like the double L at the end, like say, for example, fall. Like, the book that she's reading this week, for example, has got words like fossil and tickets. And that's long words.
Yeah.
And like I say, yes, she's doing well. But in saying that, the children in reception year in South Africa don't get reading homework. They don't get these phonic homeworks with sheets in the book bags that they have to practice and stuff, But the thing is, now I've got a 1.5-year-old too. I can't sit and check and do, and then it kind of feels like there's please complete this by, and like I say, for a 4.5-year-old, for me, it just, then she goes to school from pretty much, just before 9 o'clock until 3:30. Then she's got an after school club or swimming or something. And then, she gets home, she's tired, she's shattered.
It's a lot.
4.5-year-old, that's a lot. Then you still need to practice phonics, you have to practice reading. I think if I was born here, raised here, and it's just the norm, yes. But I think because I have the South African kind of way, that's what's kind of like stuck with me the whole time, where I kind of like.
But this is why it's so interesting to have you on, and that your unique experience is so valuable, because just because we've been brought up with it and it's the norm doesn't necessarily mean that it's right. This is the reason I wanted to do this mini series, is because how are other people doing it? What can we learn from other settings, other countries? And I think you bring up a really interesting point that I think a lot of parents and a lot of early years practitioners, if they're not already, will be talking about. So thank you. That's really interesting.
It's just my insight. It's not necessarily right either. But
we're all people. This is it. We're all people. We've all got our own different experiences, and each and every one of them is valid. So thank you for bringing that to us.
You're welcome.
Let's get rid of the curriculum, right? Let's get rid of that. We've done that. We've done plenty of time on that. Right. Hard work is over. What does a typical day in early years in South Africa look like?
Okay, so basically there again, it all depends on each different nursery school setup, because they will all have their own kind of like daily programs. But each one will primarily have like what we call a daily program, and the times can differ. So I'm not really going to add any times or anything like that. But it's usually mainly from, some will open like say at 7 o'clock for parents who work. Some will only open at 8 o'clock. So, but it's usually where there's like what we call an arrival time. When you as a teacher, you receive the children, parents drop them off, and, it's where you kind of say, stop hugging your child, or you're making it worse, just let them go. And now I'm a parent and I have to drop off my own child. I'm like, okay.
It's hard, isn't it? Now you know.
It's easy to say that, but now as a mom, it's completely different. But
yeah, you're like, oh no, now I get it.
Again, different settings will have different ways. Some will provide breakfast, and you will always have your teaching assistant, or I've always been lucky to have a teaching assistant, and they will help, also to receive, you help and the assistant help, giving the children breakfast. They can start playing indoors. It's free play week wherever in the classroom, and each classroom have different, shall I say, setups as well. You've got your fantasy corner, you've got your book corner, your music corner, your block corner, carpet area, and then after that, you have your tidy up time, and then also like a toilet routine, and just to kind of also get them into a sense of routine. And then you have what we call like a morning ring, where the children generally sit on the carpet for carpet time. You do your weather chart, you do any birthdays and or anything like that during that morning ring. Our preschool was very, very also religion orientated, so we were a Christian school, so we would do like a Bible story in the morning to start the day. From there, whatever the theme is for that week. So again, it's just touch upon the theme of autumn. You would have your little topic that you will discuss about autumn for that particular morning. Now as a teacher, we always had to have our planning ready the week prior, can I say, or the Friday prior to the next week. And you would have to have a daily program set up for every day, what you are planning for the day. And it was also very flexible, because we all know, yes, you can plan this for a Monday, but then Monday comes, something happens and that whole day is upside down. And then Thursday's activities might work better for the Monday, so you just swap it around. So it's always been very flexible, and that's really quite nice as well, that it's not that set in stone. Children will then have like what we call free play outside. And again, in South Africa, because you have to keep in mind the weather as well. Now, summers can get extremely hot, extremely hot. So it also depends on the time of year. So if it is a really, really hot period, it might swap around. So what used to be, say, the free play outdoors might become the free play indoors, just because it might be the hottest time of the day. Again, like I say, every setting is different. But then generally it will be like a free play outdoors where the kids can just play freely outside. Teachers would be outside in different stations to supervise, make sure the kids are okay. Obviously, make sure they wear hats and sun cream and those kinds of things as well. After that, come inside again for toilet routine and then a snack time. And then you would have a group activity. So it could be anything. Again, this is where I love to integrate stuff. So you would have an activity that would integrate a bit of numeracy, a little bit of literacy, a little bit of, you get what I mean. But I think that's a bit more structured, a structured activity where it's children orientated, can I say. And then after that, it's free play indoors. And that's where they then go crazy, where if I want to read, I want to read. If I want to go play with the Play-Doh, I play Play-Doh, etc., and so. And then some schools might have another activity, some not. And then, you have toilet routine again. Most of them have their lunch time. Now, a lot of settings provide lunch, which is great for parents, especially if you don't want to pack your lunchbox every day. Some do pack their own lunchbox because children might have allergies, especially with the dietary needs. Some just prefer packing their own lunchboxes rather than eating the school lunch. And then obviously after that, again, a toilet routine. And then for the younger ones, they tend to still sleep. But the older ones, and that's something that I also find I know Annabelle still needs, at her age, she needs a little bit of quiet time, which they don't have here, But even our reception year, which is the year they turn 6, is, you put on some quiet music. Even if they don't want to sleep, they still each have their own dedicated mattress, with their names on, that we hand out to them. They can find a spot. And if they don't want to sleep, they can just grab a book and they can lie down nicely and just have that calm down time.
That sounds divine.
Yeah.
I want that.
But it's generally just that kind of breakup because it's been so full on. I mean, playing is still exhausting,
Right.
It's still exhausting,
We know. I mean, even as adults, we come home and we're absolutely floored, aren't we?
You just need that half an hour break. Exactly.
Yeah.
And then after that, most of the children go home, and those who don't go home then generally have like aftercare. So that is pretty much what I say a day in the life of early years are. Teachers tend to be in school earlier before the kids arrive so that your class is set up and ready. I remember the last school where I was, every Monday we stayed at school until 5 o'clock because then we had our meeting, can I say, where we discussed what we're doing, what we're planning, things that's coming up, whether it's grandpa, grandma day, if it's Valentine's Day, we have to all decorate our classes and things like that, just to get all that kind of formalities out of the way. But then, the rest of the week, when it's 2 o'clock, when the main program, can I say, is over, then we get to go home. But that's when we then obviously start planning for the next week.
I was going to say, that's when you start your other work of working for the
Before we
kids.
knew about Twinkl, you had to do everything from scratch, and you still didn't have a life. Yeah.
Oh, bless you. Yeah. Now, that's really interesting. Thank you for sharing. It's nice to hear some similarities on our own sort of days as well, which is cute. But before we end our episode by playing a game,
okay.
What is your favourite thing about being an early years teacher in South Africa?
Oh gosh, I think, Shána, I have to say, is being able to be a teacher to such a big diversity, can I say, and different cultures, because we are so lucky to, we have 11 official languages, And,
that's amazing to me. I love that.
And I remember the first school where I taught for 4 years. We had so many of our own local, cultures and so, but it was also a school that it was set up, in a city where there was a lot of embassies. So we got a lot of different ambassadors' children from Egypt. We had from France, we've had from Iran. It was amazing. But I mean, but not just that, to be able to learn more about your own country's people, who, you might not be the same race or culture or so, and the kids are just kids. And I think that's what's the best part, is to just being brought back to earth, to realize, that we are all the same. No matter who you are, what color you are, every child is still a child. And the fact that you can see all these different children playing with one another and not having a care in the world as to who we are, what we do, what we say, because in the end, not even language is a barrier between them, and that's, I think, the best thing is being able to sit there and to watch these children being so innocent. And I think that kind of is what touches you as a teacher or as an adult, to actually make you feel guilty for all the small things that as adults, what we do, we generalize. I mean, sometimes it's easy to say that, oh, Liesel, you don't sound like you can do anything or say anything wrong. But I mean, we're all human. You can subconsciously think, oh gosh, now I've got to do this again, or oh my word, this is going to be so difficult. But then I think, look at this child, say for example, and I mean, I'll never forget it. This is a story I have to share with you. We had a little girl. She was born with special needs. She literally was only born with thumbs. And I remember, and she was, I think, 3 years old or 4 years old. So she wasn't in my class even. And she had a lot of issues with her joints, her elbows. So she couldn't even straighten her arms. So, I mean, let alone just to hold a crayon to draw something. But she managed. She tried her very hardest. And I remember the children in my class were saying, oh, teacher, we're not going to play with her, and you could already see, children can sometimes be really nasty and so. And I dropped everything. And I said to them, okay, guys, I want you all to please only use your thumbs and hold your crayons. And I want you guys to draw me the best picture that comes into your head right now. And they tried, and they were like, oh, teacher, we can't do it. It's so difficult and stuff. And I'm like, but this little girl, she can. She's not complaining about it and stuff, So we focused that whole lesson about, okay, she's different to how you might be or you might be, but look what she can do. You can't do it. So how does that balance out, kind of thing? And it was so amazing to see that playtime, how the older kids actually then went to go and play with her, how they kind of perception also kind of changed. And I'll never forget the one child in my class. She actually took a skipping rope, and I remember the plastic handle of the skipping rope literally it was hollow. So she still actually put it over the little girl's thumb so that the girl could hold it, if I can put it that way. And she stood on the other end and swung it with her. And I'll never ever forget that picture in my life, how she made a plan to involve this little girl as well, and for me, it's that kind of moment. And I'm talking about like 10 years ago, 12 years ago, and I can remember that story as clear as yesterday. So I think that's what makes it really special, is the fact that, you can see children from different perspectives, and just how they develop.
Honestly, my heart is bursting right now, but
Yeah,
we could learn so much from children, can't we?
we can, honestly.
I adore this. Thank you.
Oh, no, you're welcome.
Are you ready to play a game?
Oh gosh, yeah, don't make it too difficult.
No, it's not. No trick questions. Don't worry. It's like, there's no point system or anything. Don't worry.
Good.
So at the end of every episode, what I do with my guests is I play a Would You Rather Teacher Edition. And because you are wonderfully a teacher from South Africa, we're going to make the questions relatable to you so we get to know you a bit more, all right? But the first question is always the same. Would you rather tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Whoa, that was
oh gosh,
anyone's ever answered.
That's a must. There's no room for tea to slip through. There's no room. I mean, and I do drink tea, but it's more like for medicinal purposes. That'll be rooibos with some honey and lemon. But
yes,
coffee first and foremost.
She can't live without a coffee. All right, that was a quick fire.
Yeah, no, like I say, there's no room for error here.
I love it. Okay. Now this one, reading it makes me laugh. And this must be, I need some context behind this one. Would you rather be chased by a lion or an elephant? Does this happen regularly in South Africa? What am I missing?
Oh gosh. Okay. Well, it does happen because you do get your idiotes who don't really adhere to rules and things like that.
Right.
When they go on safari. So it can definitely happen. I myself have a rather nasty experience, but
oh no!
I have a massive fear for lions. I actually really, really do. And the main reason for that was I was about 13 or 14. And my grandparents actually took us on safari. Now, where we stayed, we were very lucky. Yes, it was in Johannesburg, or the outskirts of Johannesburg, but there's so many different areas where you've got game reserves and stuff. So you can just drive half an hour, 40 minutes, and you can like literally go for a day safari, So, and there's one particular area had lions, and they specifically say, this, and I mean, it's open. The lions can, it's not like they're in cages. You have to drive through to and try and spot them and stuff. But and they particularly say, obviously don't open your windows more than like 20%, and if you get close to a lion, don't hover around too long, because sometimes they can attack the cars and stuff. It all depends if it's mating season, etc.
Yeah.
And I remember we were driving and we just didn't see anything. And I got so bored. So I rolled the whole screen down and I literally hung out of the window, just like literally swinging my arm to and fro. And Murphy's Law, there was a male lion right next to me. And I remember jumping back in, and I was hysterical. And, my grandpa's like, what? I was like, that. But I was so hysterical, I could hardly get my words out. And, my grandfather reversed the car and he was lying there. And luckily he was in a very calm mood, very, very calm mood. How I managed not to stroke him in terms of, just swinging my arm from boredom and stuff, but I mean, I still remember that eyes of that lion. It was huge. And since that day, I've got a massive fear for lions.
I do not blame you. Oh my God.
But in saying, with regards to your question, practically wise, I'd rather be chased by a lion. Well, because they say, now, thankfully, I've never been, in a lion's way where he chased me down. But they do say that if a lion chases you, you have to stand your ground, literally stand your ground, stare him in the eyes and wave your arms like really and scream at the topmost of your voice. Because most of the times it will be like a mock charge where they will kind of like stop short and then just turn away. Whereas to elephants, it's very difficult to read an elephant. Yes, they can do mock charges, but a lot of times they don't. And if they don't stop. They don't stop.
Wow.
Elephants, as you know, the African elephant, they are the biggest land mammal. And I was lucky, we got married in South Africa on a game reserve, and we still have wedding photos right next to elephants. They're huge. You feel small when you put your hand up against them, and they're massive. So I love lions. They're beautiful creatures, but I've got a massive fear of them. I think I would rather be, not to say I would stand my ground if one really chases me. I probably would run first, but I think I would rather be chased by a lion rather than an elephant.
Wow, I did not think that was going to go where it went, but wow. Okay, now I feel more prepared. But goodness.
Whew. Yeah. Put it this way. I'm a very, I say, stupidly brave person. I love going on safaris and things like that. And I've been on numerous bushwalks and stuff. But it's always when I decide to go on a bushwalk, I always tend to think, should I put a piece of steak or something sneakily in the guy's backpack in front of me, just so that the focus is more on somebody else rather than me. So I always have like that thought in my head. I know it sounds bad, but I always kind of like think, okay, should I do something like that? But yeah.
See, I've been to South Africa. I've been to Durban.
Wow.
And I went to a game reserve, I believe, in Umhlanga.
Oh, yeah.
And it was huge and it was incredible. And we saw lions. But you know what excited me the most? Giraffes.
Oh, really? Oh, they're my favorite
We were like,
animal.
we need to see a giraffe. Like me, I was in this buggy or, car with a group of friends. And we were like, what do we want to see before we leave? And it wasn't lions. It wasn't this. It was, we want to see a giraffe. And we did. It took us hours. We were driving around we had walkie-talkies like, has anyone else seen a giraffe? Where is it? Where should we go? And it was so funny. But yeah, I mean, I adore elephants. I think they're incredibly majestic, intelligent, empathetic, gorgeous creatures. But I don't know what I'd pick. I'm stuck.
I know. I think also, especially, if you grow up close to nature, because we were lucky in the sense to growing up really close to nature. We went on safari a lot. We had family who, were game rangers, in the Kruger National Park and things like that. So, so you get to learn nature, you get to appreciate nature and stuff. So as opposed to, if you don't know the things, you don't know how to read the animals and stuff, that does make it tricky. I still wouldn't want to be in one of those situations.
Yeah, right. Neither are great.
For sure to tell you, yes, I want to be chased by an elephant. Yes, no, I'd rather be chased by a lion. But yeah.
I love it. Okay, last one. My favorite, because it's about food and I love food. Now, your barbecue in South Africa is called a braai, and I love a braai. Did I say that right? Did I roll the R properly?
You did it perfect.
I've been practicing. And guys, if you have not had a South African braai, oh my God, it's literally the best thing ever. I could eat braai for the rest of my life and die happy. But you got to make a choice now. Would you rather, for your braai, have lamb chops or, but I've forgotten how to say it. Bora Boerewors?
Boerewors, yeah, there we go.
Oh, that was terrible. Boerewors.
Boerewors, there we go. A lot of R's.
I know what a boerewors is because it's divine and I've had it. But for our lovely listeners, please explain what a boerewors is.
Oh gosh, I want to cry because I've not had boerewors in such a long time. So boerewors, it is sausage, but it's sausage unlike, I mean, if you live in the UK and you eat pork sausage, it's not the same.
It's not.
Honestly, it's painful if you have to eat sausage in the UK because boerewors, it's a lot coarser. The meat is a lot more coarser, and it tends to be beef most of the time, which I really do miss because I mean it's just pork sausage here in the UK most of the time. But also, you know, it's a lot coarser, and then also I want to say a lot thicker as well. It's a bigger sausage.
It's a chunky sausage.
It's a luxurious sausage.
It is.
And then, we even have, you know how you get Tesco's and stuff here in the UK. We have Checkers as one of the local supermarkets in South Africa, and they used to have like a Checkers boerewors competition where people could like enter and make their own boerewors with different flavors and different things. Yeah. So, but one of my favorite ones that I used to love it so much. I say used to, I do still, but I mean, you just don't get it so much here in the UK, is it's a cheese one, you know, where obviously if you cut into it, you know, just cheese coming out, you know, and also it's because obviously you have to add, you know, like fat inside, you know, with any sausage that you make, you have
where the flavor is.
Exactly. But you would get like chunks of fat. I don't know how to explain it. It's just something completely different to boerewors than what you would get just a normal sausage, you know.
Right, honestly.
Yes.
It's one of those things like once you have one, every other sausage is nothing compared.
It's nothing. Not just because I'm South African. It just is something to boerewors, and I think this is in a way a very easy question to answer because yes, I love a lamb chop. I love it so much. But you know, if I have to answer it, you know, a lamb chop you can buy very easily at Tesco's. You know, you can, whereas boerewors isn't. You know, and we tend to do like a South African shop every now and then as well. You know, and it's pricey, so we don't do it so often. But when we do, we order boerewors. So I think my answer would definitely be boerewors. You know, and
I'm so with you. I am absolutely starving right now, and it's my own fault.
I feel emotional.
Oh,
that's
sorry.
No. That's how much I love it. Yeah,
it is that delicious. Honestly, guys, if you haven't had one, listeners, go and get yourself one because God.
And there's quite a few South African shops, you know, around the UK that you can order it from, along with the biltong and the drivels and.
Oh my God, stop. Okay, you know what? We need to end this episode because I need to go to the shop and get myself some braai food.
You should have a podcast on international foods. That's what you should do.
Oh my God, stop it. Okay. Liesel, thank you so much for joining me today. You have taught me so much and we've had a really good laugh.
It was really lovely. Thank you, Shána. Yeah, thank you for having me.
No, you're so welcome. Right, I'm going to go off and go and get myself some boerewors. And I'll speak to you soon.
Okay, but you have a lovely day and take care, okay?
You too. Bye.
Okay, then bye.
Amazing. Thanks so much to Liesel for coming onto the show and talking to us about South Africa. She's so lovely and so passionate about the early years, and she's got a really interesting perspective coming from South Africa, but also being a parent of a child who's using the English curriculum and looking at those differences that she's seen. So that was really exciting. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you've learned a lot. Has anyone else taught in South Africa and want to tell me what it's about? Sounds very exciting. Sounds really lovely. I'd love to go and check it out myself. But luckily, we've got the podcast so I can talk to people about it. If you know anybody else, or if you yourself have taught abroad and you'd like to come on and tell everybody about it, please get in touch. You know where to find me. We are on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. I would absolutely love to hear your stories. But for now, that is the end of the episode. Tune in next time where you will get to hear a live interview with Delia from Twinkl, Mexico on TikTok to talk about what it's like to teach early years in Mexico. Until next time, I'll see you then. Bye. So that's it from today's episode. Thanks so much for listening, and I hope you really enjoyed it. If you would like to get involved or would like to know more, come and find us on our social media sites. We have a Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, and TikTok account. All of the details will be in the description. And whatever you're doing, I hope you have a great day today.